Hey guys, this is Alrighty Then, and in this video I'm going to show you how to remove the body mounts for a 2008 F350. This is the kit that I got from Amazon. This one says that it's good for 99 to 2010, but I think you can even go further, but that's what it says. So make sure you get the correct kit for your car. This is not a difficult project. It's quite simple, but you can run into some trouble really quick if you're not careful, okay? You're gonna need a breaker bar like this with a 15mm socket, and make sure you get yourself a long breaker bar because those things are in there tight. You're gonna need a torque wrench as well, which, this is your torque wrench set at, I believe it's 55 foot-pounds of torque. You're gonna need a 22mm open-ended wrench like this one. You may need it, you may not need it, but make sure you have one handy. This will be especially true for the front, okay? You absolutely need a torch. So you can go get a little kit like this. This one, you turn on the gas, you light it like that, and you don't have to worry about needing a striker. It's all contained. You're gonna need a jack. One of these 3-ton jacks is fine. Whatever type of jack you have, use what you got. And you're gonna need the jack to lift up the body of the truck, not the actual chassis, because you're gonna be lifting the body off of the chassis. So there are some key points under the truck where you'll know. If you're doing this job by yourself, I'm pretty sure you know where to put the jack. So you don't need to be told where, you'll know. I used these set of pry bars to remove it, especially the big one. That's what I used to take them apart. And I'll tell you about that in a second. You could use a crowbar, either one of these or one of those big ones. So you will need some type of pry bar or crowbar to make it happen, okay? This is what the bolt looks like. And it comes from underneath, so that's your 15mm bolt right there. Okay, let's take a look. All right. Whoops. These are the two plates where the bushings go. So under your truck, you'll notice you have this set of plates, and you also have this set here. There's two sets of plates. This is the top one that goes underneath the body, and this one goes underneath the, this goes on the top, and this goes underneath, and this piece fits inside that one. Okay, so they fit on each other like that. They're both gonna fit each other like this. So this one goes inside. So this is what the new body mounts look like. These are Kevlar body mounts. They're not supposed to compress. So they're supposed to stay on nice all the time. This would go up against the body. And then once you push this onto the chassis, this goes underneath and slips inside it, okay? Keep that in mind, that's very important. And when you're putting them together, it's really important that you sand this down. Once you manage to get them apart, you might want to go ahead and sand them down. Have some WD-40 on hand. Have some penetrating lubricant on hand. I also sanded the inside of this down. Sand the outside part of this. Remember, they fit into each other, and it's pretty. They're in there because they've been there for years. So it's important that you take care of that. Now, this was just easier to make the video like this. I hope you guys aren't upset about that. But anyway, these are the bushings that I used. The kit comes with 2 of these and about 8 of these. So I ended up using these on my truck. That's what it called for, so that's what I used. Okay, so this is gonna go on the top part underneath the body. And these, the other ones are gonna go on the bottom underneath the chassis. So this is what it looks like when they're together. So this is the actual body of the truck. and this is the chassis of the truck. So you've got the top part here where there's a rubber bushing, and then you've got the bottom part. This is not supposed to be laying on top of that. On my truck, the rubber had deteriorated, as you'll see in many videos, and it was actually laying on top of this. So you need to remove the bolt. But the way to remove the bolt is you have to heat it first. It's really, really important that you heat the bolt because there's a Loctite on there. And until you heat that up and kind of melt that Loctite, it's really a pain in the ass, and you're gonna have to use every ounce of your strength to get it out. So it's really important that you heat the bolt. So there might be smoke. You may wanna cut the foam out and get rid of the rubber stuff inside it before. You might have to jack up the truck a little bit, jack up the body first to be able to kind of get that stuff out, and it'll move. There's like you have about an inch of room to move, so you can kind of get the stuff out there so you can apply the heat with the torch. Okay? Another thing, when you're taking them apart, sometimes when you're taking them apart, remember that this part will be inside this one. And if you can't pry it out with the pry bar or the crowbar, you may need to apply some heat to that to get it loose. Now, there's another trick that I used that I'm going to share with you right now. Give me a second. Let me just get to the right part. Come on. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, so this is the carriage bolt that's inside the truck. So these things are inside the body of the truck, and the bolt comes from underneath and engages with this. The bolt is round, so it's kind of self-tapping, and this nut is sitting inside this metal frame, and these little flaps are what's holding the nut in place. So if you use an impact wrench, these little wings will open up, and then the nut will be loose floating in there. That's why it's really important that you do not use an impact wrench and you use a breaker bar instead. And by heating it, you're gonna break the liquid thread lock, and that'll help you ease it out. If you do this carefully, you shouldn't have to go inside the cabin to do it. But the two that are behind the back seat, you don't need to take the back seat out for. The two that are behind the driver's seat, you may need to take the rocker panel out, that little plastic piece to get to. You don't need to take the back seat out. You just need to take the rocker protector out so that you can lift the carpet and kind of get in there. But the ones in the front were like the hardest because there's really no way to access them. Okay. So how did I remove the front one? The front one was such a pain in the butt, but I had to heat it. And ultimately what I did was all this stuff had been deteriorated. All this had deteriorated. And what I did was I took a 12 millimeter, approximately like a 12 or 11 millimeter little socket, and I put it on top of this. Remember that the bottom part fits inside there. So I put the socket on top, right at the very top of the bottom piece, and I let the body, I released the jack and let the jack push it down like if it was a press. So right here. So remember that this part fits inside there, and it actually goes all the way to the very top. So the socket was pushing up against this because this is stuck on the body. It's not going to go anywhere. The socket was pushing up against it, and it finally pushed it out and popped it out like a press. So that's how I was able to take out the front part, okay? Which made it really easy. I didn't have to cut or grind. I know a lot of people here that they're grinding their things and just kind of breaking them and busting them. And it is a pain in the ass. So make sure that you take your time when you're doing this. Don't get overexcited. Take your time, okay? So these are the front ones. Now, another recommendation I have, so you remember the socket is gonna fit right on the very lip of this, and when you put the weight of the truck down, it's gonna push this down and pop it out. So that's how I was able to do mine. I didn't have to cut it or grind it, so I was able to use all my original parts quite successfully. See this person here, they ended up cutting them because they just kind of got too frustrated, which it's really easy to get frustrated on this. So I don't blame them at all. So in order to do this successfully, you need to remove the front bumper. If you want to make this easy and not go through a lot of trouble, remove the front bumper. It's very important. All right. This is the view with the front bumper out. You notice it's very easily accessible. You don't have to worry about it. But one part that I want you to notice is this little hole right here. Okay. There are two 8mm screws that are holding on to this mud guard for your wheel well. You're going to need to remove this 8mm out, and in order to access it, okay? So that's, and this is where I jacked up the frame, put the bolt in there to pop that out. Okay, so that's the view from inside. And we're gonna take a look at this. So now, right here, this is that opening that I was telling you about. This is where you're gonna use that 22mm open-ended wrench to access the nut that's inside there. You're gonna need to access this. So you're gonna take the wrench and stick it in there, and by removing those two screws that I told you, there are two screws that hold the body panel guard, the mud guard in there. They kind of get in the way, that's why I need to get them out. So you're gonna stick the 22mm in here to hold that in place. Otherwise, this little thing just keeps floating around. So this is the carriage bolt, and this is that metal band that clamps onto it. But as you can see, they get loose, they open, and then the nut just sits there floating around. And that's why it's such a really pain in the ass to work with. All of them are like that, okay? So it's a real pain in the ass. And here you're gonna see that you can see the actual nut itself pretty well. Give me a second. There it is. And there you have it. So notice those little flanges.
What you guys are looking at here is
they pop out. That's the nut. You can see it moving. Okay. And those little lips that hold it in place, they just get loose. So that's where the torch is gonna come in and be your friend. You really need to get that heated in order to make it. So you see, the carriage bolt is just sitting in there loose, and these are the things that are holding it in place. I mean, it's such a pain in the eye. I don't know why they didn't just weld these to the chassis and just make it happen. But anyway, you don't have to worry about removing the radiator, getting in there, because it is impossible. The only way to do it is remove the bumper, and you'll be able to access it and stick the 22mm right in there. With the pry bar, I was able to push these down a little bit so that the 22 would sit really nice. Okay, this is the biggest thing you have to overcome. And if you take your time, you can look at the other videos. If you want to see exactly how they kind of moved it, but these are the really important keys of doing this job. Do not remove, do not use an impact wrench, and take your time, guys. And remove the front bumper. You're gonna need to remove that front bumper so you can have access to it. So I hope this video helped. I know that wasn't a, pretty much it wasn't how to too much in terms of me doing it, but this way, hopefully I save you guys a lot of time and effort in doing it. Good luck. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, guys.